Hello and welcome to the ScatterVolt channel, and today let's go over the best and worst graphics cards to buy for April. So don't get me wrong, graphics card prices are still atrocious, and I'm still going to tell you guys that if you want a graphics card, then do not buy one. But if you need a graphics card, then my goal in this video is to tell you guys what are going to be the best graphics cards to buy in a worst case scenario. Because trust me, there are some graphics cards you absolutely 100% have to avoid because they are severely overpriced no matter how good they look on paper. And while the topic of this video may seem super serious, it's actually going to be really easy through the help of my website gpus.gg, which has all of the updated prices and latest GPU recommendations in this exact video. So if you literally wanted to skip this whole video and go straight to gpus.gg, you are more than welcome to. That is in the description down below. Otherwise, I'm not going to waste your time, and we're going to get straight into the best budget graphics cards, working our way up to the most expensive. So we're gonna go ahead and set the price slider here all the way down to, well, for a budget graphics card in 2026, we're up to set the price slider to just above $350. A little uncomfortable, but that's just how things are. And we are given our list of graphics cards here. Let's go ahead and start with the ones to avoid. You have to avoid the RTX 5060. Currently on gpus.gg, it lists this graphics card at $350. That is $50 above MSRP. Admittedly, the price of this graphics card, I don't believe has changed since the last month, but regardless, the rule is you don't want to pay for a graphics card that has 8 gigabytes of VRAM that is above $300, unless it has a crazy amount of rasterization performance for the money. But the 5060, no. I'm just going to get right off the bat, 8 gigabytes of VRAM. It's really good at 1080p, somewhat useful at 1440p. It's just going to be really constricted by its VRAM. And don't get me wrong, there will be games coming out in the future like Grand Theft Auto 6 that are probably going to exceed that 8 gigabyte VRAM buffer at 1440p and definitely push it at 1080p, because Grand Theft Auto 6 at launch is probably going to be slightly unoptimized for PC. I would really only consider the RTX 5060 if you religiously, and I seriously mean it, you religiously play esports games like Fortnite in particular, that runs incredibly well on Nvidia graphics cards that don't stress VRAM at all because they aren't graphically demanding games. They just require really high frame rate and low frame times. That is the only person I see the 5060 being useful for. Otherwise, I would not consider it. There are better graphics card options for even, I think, less than $100 more than this that have way better hardware for the money, even from Nvidia's own lineup. I would really not consider the 5060. Now, last month, this graphics card was a yes, you should buy it, but now this month, it's a little bit more mixed. The RTX 5050 was actually a pretty good buy last month, and in January, and in early March, because this was found for MSRP, which was $250, and that was excellent, because pretty much all Nvidia graphics cards have shot up in price, going up from the 5060 all the way to the 5090. And that wasn't the case for the 5050. You could still find some for just over $10 over MSRP. But unfortunately, if we check gpus.gg down here, the 5050, it's now at $290, which puts it in the firing range of the Intel Arc B580, which is also $290. And you probably already know where this conversation is going. The 5050 is Nvidia's cheapest RTX 5000 GPU that can utilize DLSS 4.0. It does have the same amount of VRAM as the RTX 5060, its bigger brother, and it is below $300 with 8 gigabytes of VRAM. That isn't atrocious by 2026 standards. However, you can find better graphics cards than this for the same price. I will leave it at that. If anything, if you're that gamer who only plays Fortnite or esports games, then sure, you can consider the 5050, but now this is within $50 or about $60 of the RTX 5060. And if you are just playing those esport VRAM friendly games like Fortnite, then you might as well consider the 5060 for only $60 more, because that will net you better performance in just those games. But otherwise, 5050 no longer a hard recommend. It is no longer the best budget graphics card below $300. Now let's come up to the second best budget graphics card under $300, the Intel Arc B570. This one is a little bit better in terms of pricing. It is $250. That is only $30 $10 above its MSRP. I will gladly take that right now. What I like about the Intel Arc B570 is that it has 10 gigabytes of VRAM, so it's just a little bit more than 8 gigabytes. So even at 1080p, which is the recommended resolution for this graphics card, you will have that slight extra bit of buffer for VRAM usage. If perhaps, say, you run a game that comes out sometime in the near future and just doesn't have good VRAM usage, you will have 2 extra gigs in this graphics card, which can make a big difference depending on the title versus a lot of graphics cards like the 5050 with only 8 gigabytes of VRAM. Still though, I think one thing we do need to discuss when it comes to Intel Arc graphics cards is game optimization. For most games that have been out for over a year and have been out for years, even on older APIs like DX9, Intel Arc will run those games quite well. But there was a recent game that just came out, I believe called Crimson Desert, which didn't support Intel Arc GPUs on day one, which is slightly concerning. However, I will note 2 things. 1, the game did eventually support Intel Arc GPUs 2 days after launch, and 2, it was an AMD sponsored title. So they probably went all in on the AMD optimization and completely left out Intel, which is just not a great look for the game in my opinion and the developers. But otherwise, if you're okay with the fact that game optimizations for Intel Arc graphics cards may not be arriving at the same time as AMD or Nvidia, I mean, these will probably run certain games day one at launch fine, just not as well as AMD or Nvidia, then that is one thing to consider with Intel Arc. The best optimizations game developers can give for these graphics cards will be placed lower in their priority chain than like an Nvidia or AMD card. Otherwise, I still like this graphics card, and I will probably use it in an upcoming PC build guide for around $800 later this year, because it's still a good buy for $250, all things considered. You get good hardware, good performance, and an all-around pretty decent 1080p GPU. But like I said, I would consider this decent, because by far still the best budget graphics card for under $300, and still is right now in 2026, is the Intel Arc B580. This is sitting at $290 on GPUs.gg on pretty much all the major retailers other than Amazon. I really like this graphics card. It's got 12 gigabytes of VRAM, so even more than 10, and having 12 gigabytes of VRAM puts it in that 1440p GPU category. Sure, it may not run certain games with ray tracing completely maxed out. Don't forget, this is still a budget graphics card at the end of the day, but if you wanted to run your favorite upcoming game like Forza Horizon 6 at 1440p at medium to high settings, perhaps maybe with ray tracing off because you maybe don't want it, then this is going to be a really excellent choice. It just has a lot of great hardware for the money. Just again, keep in mind that game optimizations for this graphics card could arrive later than say Nvidia or AMD. That perhaps is going to be the one drawback to choosing an Intel Arc graphics card right now in 2026. But if you're willing to give this graphics card a little bit of patience, especially with the Intel driver team that always seems to put out graphics card updates that make these cards faster over time, then this will reap the rewards of investing in this card. So in terms of an all-around GPU, I would consider Intel Arc in this price range over Nvidia, especially if you're a video content creator and you want the hardware decoding capabilities of an Intel Arc graphics card. Anyways, with the budget segment covered, let's move on to the mid-range. Did I miss the RX 9060 XT 8GB? I absolutely did, but I'm going to bundle it in the exact same category as the RTX 5060. It is over $300. What is it? Oh, 340? Really? 346. If it has 8 gigabytes of VRAM and it's about $300, I just wouldn't consider it. And even versus the 5060, although this does slightly better all around, if you're just looking at esports games, yes, that 5060 is going to be better for those games. I wouldn't consider either graphics card though, the 5060 or this one. The Arc B580 is just a little bit more well-rounded for being $60 less. Anyways, for the best mid-range graphics cards, I'm going to go ahead and click on reset and click on the like button for this video. I'm going to make you do that. You know why? Because I want you to. You're welcome. Anyways, we're going to set the price slider from just below 360 going up to 660. Yeah, it really is like that nowadays. Go ahead and click on show me. Here are our mid-range graphics cards. Let's start off with the ones I would not get. And this one, it is just sad. It is really sad. This was one of my favorite Nvidia graphics cards. It ranked B tier in my GPU tier list video, which for an Nvidia graphics card by my standards is not a bad rating at all. It is the RTX 5060 Ti. It is the RTX 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte. There's a really important distinction between the 8 and the 16 gig. So I really like this graphics card in the past because Nvidia just seems allergic to gifting PC gamers VRAM in their graphics cards. They always seem to give us the minimum amount unless they do weird things like this, where the 5060 Ti has 16 gigabytes of GDDR7 memory, which actually works really well with this specific graphics card because it has a 128-bit memory bus. So that GDDR7 memory with its increased memory bandwidth actually worked really well with that narrow memory bus. So that's why I like the 5060 Ti so much, despite it not being even in some ways the most or the best price to performance compared to AMD. But right now is $570, a full $140 above MSRP. That is disgusting. Unbelievably disgusting. There's the 5070. There's a deal right now on Walmart.com for $590. $600 according to this. It is quite literally $30 to $20 more than this GPU, and you are getting a massive uplift in performance. Whatever Nvidia is doing with this graphics card, it is not working. Do not buy it. If I had to guess, it is because Nvidia is prioritizing all of their 16 gigabyte GDDR7 memory modules to their RTX 5080 and RTX 5070 Ti, or morely the 5080. So 5060 Ti here, they've probably just flat out stopped making it. That's why it's $570. That is absolutely not worth considering. Do not get the 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte. This is just way too expensive. And let's perhaps cover its little brother now. The other box I brought out earlier, the 5060 Ti 8 gigabytes. If we check out GPUs.gg, it's hovering no longer at MSRP. It's at $420. Again, gonna stick it to the rule. With 8 gigabytes of VRAM for over $400, that is just not worth considering. This is a no-go unless you are chronically addicted to Fortnite. That is the only thing I'll say. So 5060 Ti 8GB along with a 16GB are no longer worth considering, which is a real shame for the 16GB. And as usual, is always a no-go for the 8GB. And now let's move on to graphics cards that are slightly better. They're not as egregious. And let's start with the one that is still not the greatest, but let's talk about it. The RTX 5070. This was an incredible pickup during Black Friday of last year. You could have found one for $490 with a rebate, or even as low as $480. That was an excellent time to pick up the RTX 5070. I clearly recommended it because it even undercut its Radeon competition, the RX 9070, by about $20 to $30. Although yes, this is technically slower than the RX 9070. Yes, it has less VRAM than the RX 9070, and yes, it matches and has the same ray tracing performance as the 9070, but it was clearly less. And considering an Nvidia card and its additional features, that was worth it. It was less. It was pretty good. But right now, if we check prices, there is this mythical RTX 5070 available from PNY for $600 from Walmart.com. So this is only for my US viewers, which is to say, this isn't just for US. You can actually choose other regions here on GPUs.gg. Heck, it'll actually choose the region for you. But this is a rare deal on an RTX 5070. So if you were looking for a 5070 specifically, this is going to be the best you'll find for probably months. I've not seen a 5070 drop to $600. No, this is the first time this whole year. This is a low price for the 5070, because otherwise the normal for the RTX 5070 is $650, and at this price point it is not worth considering because it is actually more than the RX 9070. So until this RTX 5070 deal from Walmart.com runs out, this is still not really worth picking up because I think the RX 9070 is a better buy for less, unless you get that Walmart deal. But the 5070 was fine, just never great in the first place. But let's talk about actually the graphics card I keep comparing it to. Here we have the RX 9070. Right now, if we look at pricing, it is $630. That is about bang on where it was, I think, last month. But on Newegg.com, if you wanted to buy one in the US, they are coming with Crimson Desert as a free game if you value that at all. But otherwise, Compared to the RTX 5070 at $650, this is the better buy. This is going to be faster in terms of rasterization performance, so anything that isn't ray tracing. It has 4 gigabytes more VRAM, and it has the exact same ray tracing performance as the 5070 across a multitude of games if you just aggregate the average FPS. They usually come out about the same. And I'd like to think for the majority of you who are watching this video, this is maybe, I think, a disservice on behalf of the graphics card industry, because I don't try to push this, but I really think for most of you who are watching this video, you can just stop right here. Most of you are going to be playing at 1440p or 1080p, not at all 4K. And the RX 9070 is the perfect 1440p gaming graphics card. Yes, is it above $600? Yeah, that is a bit steep. But beyond this, it is just redonkulous. You have the RX 9070 XT, which is not bad pricing wise, but then you have the RTX 5070 Ti, which I'll go ahead and spoil prices now just to illustrate my point. If we reset and check out the current price for the 5070 Ti, it is $1,000. If we check out the current price for the 5080, it is $1,300. In my opinion, you don't need those graphics cards. They're too fast. Those are great for 4K, but if you're going to be playing at 1440p high frame rate, this is still going to do 90% of what those cards will do at that resolution. I mean, of course, you know, this isn't by any means 10% slower than a 5070 Ti, but I'm just saying realistically, this is where you should stop in this video, actually. Like, this is, I mean, if you're looking for a graphics card and you need something, this is the most I would consider, unless you really want like a 9070 XT. This is just at a pretty decent price point. It gives you good hardware, good performance for the money, hence why it has pretty much stayed as the best mid-range GPU throughout the entirety of this series since the 9070 first came out. It's just always been a well-rounded card, and it's surprisingly efficient. So I can't say enough about the 9070. Just stop watching the video. Just if you needed a graphics card, you don't know what to get, but you want something that's going to be fast enough for not just now, but also many years into the future, just pick up a 9070. That's literally it. But we have one more graphics card to cover in the mid-range segment, and this one also hurts to talk about. It is the RX 9060 XT 16 gigabytes. So in terms of pricing, let's scroll down to mid-range. What is it right now? $440. That is about $10 less, I think, than last month, or maybe the same price. This one is a tough recommendation for one reason. You ready for this? You weren't expecting this. I'm about to show you. Maybe you guys just caught it, but you see this right here, 77 XT. I don't know why the prices aren't showing up. Probably it's still loading in, but let me show you something. Here on newegg.com, and I will say this only applies to US viewers, if you type in 77 XT or 7700 XT, you can pick one up for $380 on Newegg from either XFX or ASRock for $400. And if you don't recall, in terms of rasterization performance, this is just a bit slower than the RX 9060 XT, yet you can pick one up for about $70 less, or $60. You are losing out on 4 gigabytes of VRAM. There is that. You are losing out on FSR4 technically, although you can enable FSR4 through some mods, through some software, which AMD should just really just go ahead and do. It's quite stupid of them not to make FSR4 available on all cards that can clearly support it. But if you needed a good bang for the buck mid-range graphics card that wasn't that $600 RX 9070 and you live in the States, this 7700 XT is going to be your last shot. I don't know how long this is going to last. One of you guys who are actually watching this video pointed this deal out to me, and I was like, whoa, why is this 7700 XT for some reason back in production? Could it possibly be that this uses 12 gigabyte memory modules from AMD and have AMD's entire RX 9000 GPU lineup? There's not a single GPU in there other than the RX 9070 GRE, which is not sold in the States. It's only really sold in China, that uses 12 gigabytes of VRAM. So I'm wondering, did AMD bring back the 7700 XT? That would be surprising, and I'd welcome it. At $380, given the current graphics card climate, I'll take that. Which is to say, the 9060 XT, no, not at $450, not at $440. I would personally spend $200 more to get that 9070. Well, even this is just not the most attractive, but if you live in the States, this 7700 XT for $380 or $400 is going to be a better buy for your money unless you really value FSR4. Otherwise, like, just is a stinky market right now for mid-range GPUs. A lot of it in the middle is quite bad and atrocious, and only like the far ends are good. So like the ARC B580 is good, the ARC B570 is good, and then it's pretty bad up until the RX 9070. That's just the current state of the market. All right, let's finish out this video with the best and worst high-end graphics cards. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and set the price slider to, we'll set this to above $650 for the best high-end graphics cards. Click on show me. There are our high-end graphics cards, which leads us to why you should consider subscribing to the ScatterVolt channel. If you've made it to this point in the video, you like my talking style, you hopefully like my talking points, and at least these GPU of the month videos, which I do put out on a monthly basis. So if you want to see them regularly pop up in your subscription box, you might want to subscribe. Anyways, let's continue the tradition. Let's start with graphics cards to not consider. First of which being the RTX 5090. Nope. Nope. Don't get it. Nope. Unless you do AI, nope. Which leaves us with 3 other graphics cards, and we'll go ahead and touch on the RTX 5080. This is also going to be a nope. I'm sorry. This should not be $1,300 right now. That is, I mean, even before all of this, I told people to stay away from the RTX 5080 because if you were to compare it in terms of price to performance to the RTX 5070 Ti, in all honesty, the 5070 Ti was never that far off the 5080. Heck, both have the same amount of VRAM. The only thing you're really missing out on other than gaming performance difference is like one additional like decoder for video editing. Yeah. Other than that, like they're almost the same other than the performance difference. Yet the price difference was, even before all this, like $250. Right now, the price difference between the 5080 and the 5070 Ti is $300. So even nowadays, still not worth considering. I would only get this graphics card if you are madly obsessed with path tracing. So not ray tracing, but path tracing. And if you know what path tracing is, then you might be willing to shell out $1,300 on a 5080. If you don't know what the heck I just talked about, you don't need a 5080. Heck, I stand by what I said just earlier in this video. You don't need any more than that $630 RX 9070. This is completely overkill. You don't need it. Speaking of you don't need it, the 5070 Ti, this is another really good NVIDIA graphics card I liked to recommend. This one I think was A tier or B tier in my GPU's tier list video from last year because it's just NVIDIA's most well-rounded GPU. It came with decent pricing, decent performance, and decent hardware. NVIDIA is very reluctant to give 16 gigabytes of VRAM in any of their graphics cards, and they gave that to the 5070 Ti, which was a huge improvement over the last generation 4070 Ti, which launched with 12, which was easily a crime against GPUs. But the 5070 Ti at $1,000 right now is not worth considering, because I'll go ahead and spoil it right now. This guy right here, the RX 9070 XT, technically beats the 5070 Ti in an aggregate of PC games that don't have ray tracing turned on. So yeah, that's a bit of food for thought. Yes, in terms of ray tracing, the 5070 Ti is faster, but is it, if we check pricing, $270 faster than the RX 9070 XT? That unfortunately is a no. At $1,000, the 5070 Ti is not worth considering in a DIY system, which sucks because this is my favorite NVIDIA GPU. The 5080 was just never worth it. Like, NVIDIA, if you're watching this video, stop giving all the 16 gigabyte memory modules to the 5080. We don't like the 5080. Go ahead and like split up the partition and give some of those 16 gigabyte memory modules to the 5070 Ti, which will maybe bring down its price tag a little bit to maybe like $850, which would be a huge improvement. But at $1,000, no PC gamer is gonna get it on the DIY market. Which then leaves us with the only realistic option as a high-end graphics card. And what I find funny is that there's some people in the comments section who disagree with me. They don't think this is a high-end GPU, except that it runs at 4K. There are some games where this not only clearly beats the 5070 Ti, but it even beats the 5080. It has the same amount of VRAM as the 5080 and the 5070 Ti, and really the only thing you're missing out on this graphics card is top-tier path tracing, because ray tracing is something this GPU, because of the RX 9000 architecture, can certainly do. This is a high-end graphics card. I said it. The RX 9070 for $630 $130 is where you should stop at, because most gamers are not going to be playing at 4K. And if you're going to be playing at 4K and you don't want to destroy your wallet, RX 9070 XT, go for it. Right now it's $730. It is not egregiously overpriced. It is actually, yeah, it is $130 above MSRP. That is a bit of a disgusting thing to say, but note that the 9070 XT at launch at $600 was AMD's best graphics card they ever made in years in terms of price to performance, hardware, ray tracing features, and all that. And as you could probably tell, that price wasn't going to stay, because then this graphics card quickly shot up to above $700 shortly after it released. So realistically, this is more of a $650 graphics card, so I priced its MSRP difference more at like $80 right now rather than $130. Still, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to compensate for the 9070 XT here, but it is still a good graphics card considering the other options we just discussed in the high-end range that are ridiculously and obscenely overpriced. So again, if you needed a 4K gaming graphics card, not if you wanted one, don't get this if you wanted it. It's, like I said, $130 above MSRP. During Black Friday, this got as low as I think $580, so you definitely missed your window. But if you needed something that can do 4K and ray tracing, this is going to be your best shot. Anyways, with all that wrapped up, that is it for today's GPUs of the month video. If you enjoyed it, you should subscribe and do give this video a like. And check out gpus.gg to check out any of these graphics cards I just discussed. So with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and this is the ScatterVolt channel, signing out.